you the surgeon?
Yes, sir. If you want to take a close-up of anything, go ahead, step over mine. Go ahead. It's not good.
Okay. Is that laudanum? There? Is that supposed to be laudanum?
What, this?
Yeah.
Medicinal, Army medicinal whiskey.
Oh, okay.
So it'd be 100-grain whiskey, very strong, with opiates in it.
Okay, so there's opiates in there, so to...
Yes.
And so when you take a leg off, you'd have them drink that?
Not really.
Oh.
We have chloroform in ether.
Oh, chloroform in
But
ether.
the John Wayne movies, you know, like Fort Apache and that sort of thing, remember the sergeants always get in trouble for drinking?
Yeah.
And you usually use the excuse and he'll say, Colonel, my darling, it's for medicinal purposes, you know? And to people who don't know, they think, well, that's an excuse. Well, this was even worse than drinking alcohol because it had opiates in it.
Yeah.
So it was even worse.
Oh.
They really didn't use during the Civil War. It was the last resort.
Oh, okay.
Because they, like I said, they'd chloroform in ether. You don't see it in movies, but they had it.
Oh, so all the time they took a leg off, they always had chloroform in ether.
Yeah. At the start of the war, the first year, depending on the combat theater you were talking about, the medical people followed the regiments. You know, Ohio would send a number of regiments, assign doctors to each regiment. Well, that didn't prove to be efficient because guess what? What if your regiment wasn't fighting? Your doctor's sitting there.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? So that's when the Union decided the medical teams will follow the entire Army.
Oh.
And that way you get better use out of them. And the medical supplies follow with the Army.
Oh.
So a lot of people think, well, you didn't have everything. No, if the Army moved, it moved with everything, including medical supplies. So they did have medical supplies.
What would those books be?
This is just typical Gray's Anatomy, started in 1858, just before the Civil War. Just an indication. They had knowledge. There was no problem there. Lincoln wanted all the Army hospitals to be run the same, so he had Dr. Woodward, who ended up doing his autopsy when Lincoln was shot, but had him investigate and write up a book so that all the Army hospitals be run the same. It's called the Hospital Steward's Manual. It tells you everything, including the kitchen, recipes, you know, for feeding 100 men, you know, that sort of thing. After reading this, it follows close to our modern hospitals today, except for one thing. It doesn't treat infection because they don't understand infections, so they don't do anything about infections. But everything else, you know, changing the linen, you know, mopping the floors, you know, just everything.
They didn't know about bacteria.
They did not.
Is that your uniform? Or is that?
Yeah, just part of it. That would be a hospital steward's uniform. That would be an officer's parade sword, and the silk scarf you'd wear. Green was, if you saw green, you could tell the job the person had by the colors they wore around them.
Oh.
You know, yellow, cavalry.
Oh.
You know, so green, that'd be medical. The sergeant would have a wool one.
Well, is this whole bivouac supposedly a field hospital, the whole thing, or just yours?
Just this.
Now, what's the significance of that chair? Is that where you do the operations? Or?
No, that's where I relax.
Oh, that's where you relax. Okay.
Officers, if they could, would carry some private articles with them to camp. And a chair was one thing if they had one. Maybe a small desk to put a lamp on. Just a few things from home.
Okay.
Because the Army would haul it in wagons for them.
Now, would a surgeon also... Oh, those are mini balls, I believe.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, those are what's tearing up the bones when they...
Exactly, when it hits. It'll smash enough. And you can see two of them. If it hit a thigh bone or something like that, that's the way it'd go. If it hit something hard, you know, metallic, it would flatten like that. A direct hit on metallic, it just goes in a tiny shrub.
So if I had a broken bone, I'd probably just lose my leg, right?
Normally. Here's the thing. They knew how to set bones.
Huh.
But usually if you were hit in a bone, it would clear out 2 to 4 inches of it. Well, they didn't know how to set that. Because remember, stainless steel won't get invented till the next century, so they can't put braces, screws, they can't put anything internally.
Oh.
So if they can't set it, you got to cut it off, because otherwise it would just be a flapping limb the rest of your life.
Now, that's a stethoscope right there, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
A wooden stethoscope?
Yep. Now, they had binaural and monaural stethoscopes just like your modern doctors do.
Yeah.
But this is pre-Civil War. your doctors made house calls. They don't do it anymore, so they don't need this. But
my doctor, when I was a little boy, actually did do a house call.
There we go. That was probably end of an era.
Yeah.
But when they went on a house call, they couldn't carry their office with them. They would carry little pieces of things, and they liked things like this. As a matter of fact, I've got a scalpel, and they just stuff in their cloak. I've got a scalpel here. This is middle. This is actually the only real thing I have in my kit. Everything else is reproductions. This is middle 1700s. And it's a folding scalpel, and it is actually sharp.
That's fascinating.
So they like little pocket stuffers like that because when they made office calls, they couldn't carry everything.
I see you've got what appears to be a saw there for amputations?
Yes. In that kit, it's called an amputating kit. They add specialized kits for whatever they were doing. This one is for amputation.
And did the limbs pile up like that?
They would pile up. Normally, you'd have a Irish private come by every half hour or so and pick them up and bury them.
Oh, gee.
Well, in the chaotic, situation after a major battle, sometime it wouldn't happen, and these things would pile up. So it's just showing that they started to pile up.
And that's a sponge just for cleaning, right?
Just for cleaning. Now, during the Civil War, they don't buy germs. So guess what happens when you use that to clean a table? A sponge. Germs love all those crevices, but they didn't know about that. So
yeah, I see that. There would be blood everywhere.
Yes, absolutely. You've seen Dance with Wolves?
Yes.
That very first scene of Dance with Wolves, that was typical. Blood everywhere, on the pile over there. That was very typical.
And I guess you would wear a straw hat to keep cool in the hot
Yeah, you got rid of the uniform, as much as you could. Now, if you were private, a soldier like that, you weren't allowed to get rid of the uniform.
Yeah.
During the late Indian Wars, 1880s and 90s, they did. But during the Civil War, they didn't. But your officers, they had more latitude.
So a private wouldn't be allowed to put on a straw hat?
No way.
He'd have to wear his woolen clothing.
That's it. That's it.
Now
the Southerners, when they ran out of wool, and the naval embargo kept things from coming from Europe, they used a combination of wool, what wool they had, and cotton. It's called linsey woolsey, and was actually cooler than the Union uniforms.
Is that the pants you're wearing regulation?
No, I'm portraying a civilian. Both sides were short on physicians when the Civil War broke out.
Oh, I see.
Over half of them were hired physicians.
Oh, okay.
So I'd wear regular
It looked like either you're a civilian or you're slightly insubordinate.
Or I'm selling patent medicine. I could be a patent medicine consultant too.
Can you tell me your first name?
Sure.
What character you are?
I'm actually...
Oh, okay.
Dr. Malarky.
Dr. Malarky.
The infamous Dr. Malarky.
The Dr. Malarky.
Yes.
Well, thank you. This has been fascinating. I really appreciate you taking the time to tell me all this.
You bet.